Hi, Honey Family. Welcome back to another episode. I took last week off. I had a cold. My voice was pretty dismal. But I'm back this week with another good collection of really good stories, and I hope you enjoy them. If you like what you hear, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Story 1. A Ouija Man. When my mother was about 8 years old, she lived in Florida. I don't know much about that house, except that it was located next to an old graveyard that may or may not have had anything to do with what happened. We just don't know. She doesn't remember when it started, but she remembers being woken up by something jumping on her bed. This happened every night for close to a year. She told my grandparents, who, of course, thought she was only dreaming. Every night, for that time period, she would wake up to a huge shadow. It would often change shapes, sometimes be a cat, sometimes a man. He would jump up and down on her bed and do little dances on her wall. For a while, this was all that happened. One afternoon, she had a bunch of friends over to play. They were out on her front porch, just standing around. My grandmother was watching them from the kitchen window. All of a sudden, one of her friends spoke up and told her, "Look out!" They all witnessed a very large shadow of a man step toward her and violently push her off the porch. My grandmother denies seeing anything. It scared her. After that, the nighttime shadow just became more and more persistent. Finally, my mom, being the strong-willed person that she was, decided enough was enough. One night, she jumped up out of bed and caught the shadow, and as she put it, strangled him. After that, he never came back. That may seem pretty far out there, but my mom is one of the most sane people I know. She's a counselor, she has a college degree, and she's very intelligent. If she says it happened, I believe her. My own story is less violent, but frightening in its own right. When I was 20, I left for college. My mom had always warned me about messing with Ouija boards. But I'm curious, and I'm drawn to things that I can't explain. Using the Ouija with just a couple of friends, I met up through the board with a guy who called himself ZoZo. Immediately, he became very hostile with me. He called me things that I won't repeat, and then he said something that caught my attention. He spelled out, "Pushed Mom off porch." None of my friends knew anything about this story, and they had no idea what he was talking about. Then he told me about my uncle, who is a priest. He told me about my boyfriend at the time. He told me that my friend Jay would marry Lori, and 1 year later, Jay did in fact marry Lori. Then one of my friends did something you're not supposed to do when using the board. She asked him to prove that he was there. Starting that night, I saw strange shadows on my wall. For a long time, I slept with my light on. One afternoon, I came home to find my stereo turned all the way up and my window wide open. Both things I always checked before leaving my room. When I walked into the hall, my best friend came out of her room and said, "Oh, I thought you were home. I heard talking in there and your music was on." My door was locked and there was no one inside. At this point, I told my mom, and she yelled at me for having messed with the Ouija board. I did what I'd always heard worked on spirits and lit a white candle and asked him to leave. For the most part, he didn't come back. To this day, though, every once in a while, I catch something out of the corner of my eye. It's like he just likes to make sure I don't forget about him. I'm no longer afraid of him. I ignore him, and, from what I've read, he doesn't care too much because he has other people to pester. Story 2. They came with the house. We moved into a newly built home and lived there for about 7 months. This house is located in Central Florida, and it's a new subdivision. The first thing I saw was a tall, white ghost, holding what looked like a large white pillow over its head. There have also been, on occasion, a ghost coming out of our family room into our bedroom. They come in and go right back out. Our bathroom is connected to the bedroom, and the large ghost just stands in the doorway to the bathroom. About 4 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. There, inside the toilet area, was a woman dressed in clothing from the 1800s. As I entered the room, she disappeared. Later, I went back into the room again, and there was a different woman, dressed in a similar 1800s style, wearing a hat. As I entered, she too disappeared. The next morning, I started to enter the room and saw a man, dressed in bibbed overalls, standing in the same place the women had been standing. He also disappeared as I entered the room. Later, I went into the room again, and there was a different man, who also disappeared as I began to enter. The large white ghost remains standing in the doorway entrance of the bathroom when he does appear, and usually only disappears when daylight appears. I don't know where they came from, because it's a new constructed house, so I guess they just came with the land. Story 3. Shadow Man. I realized the ghost in our house had been around for quite a while. When I was 8 years old, I woke up one night for no apparent reason. I felt cold, but it was the middle of summer. I rolled over, so now I was on my side, facing the wall. I tried to get back to sleep. My eyes were open, and I was definitely awake. A black, shadow-like man was on my wall. I stared at it for a bit. I thought I was dreaming. But no, I was wide awake. This was no dream. I quickly turned to my window to see if there was someone outside, and that this was just a shadow. Had my curtains, my blinds, and my window slightly open to let the summer breeze in. No one was there. I jumped over the end of my bed and ran to my mom and dad's room. I've never moved so fast. White as a ghost, when my mom turned on the light, she asked what was wrong, and I explained. My parents both took me back to my room to check it out. Nothing was there. Nothing at all. My room was hot again, not cold. My dad said I must have been dreaming. But my mom, she looked like she believed me. She placed a bottle of holy water in my room and made me wear a gold cross. Dad thought this was a stupid waste of time. My dad was a big non-believer. A month passed, and I was sleeping in my bed once again. I woke up, cold again, and I heard my sister, who was 6, scream loud, followed by the sound of vomiting. Then, only I heard the run. Someone ran past the hallway. I got up to see my sister. She was throwing up over her bed, crying. I screamed for our mom, and Mom and Dad woke up and came out. My sister said that she woke up because she was cold, and at the end of her bed, standing in the doorframe, was a large, black shadow of a man, just standing there. Then a little gremlin-like giggle, and then it ran in and crawled under her bed. Dad, again, said it was all just a bad dream, but me and Mom could only stare at each other. My sister was scared. She was scared so bad that it made her sick. Didn't Dad see this? I guess not. But our Mom, she put the same holy things with my sister that she had with me. But still, we didn't feel safe. Nothing happened for a long time. A couple years, and then it came back, to remind us that it was still around. It was school holidays, and I went out for the day, and Mom and Dad were at work, but my sister stayed home. She was a teenager at this point. She had invited some friends of hers over for a swim. She tells me they got out of the pool, after sitting in the sun, came inside for a drink. As they walked in, they both saw a man run through the hallway. She said they ignored it and got a drink, and as they were returning to the backyard, all the door handles in the house started to turn and shake. My sister's friends started to cry, and our dogs ran inside, barking and growling at the hallway. My sister grabbed the cordless phone and ran out to the backyard with her friend. She called my cell phone, and I made it home straight away. When she told me, I remember the man from our childhood. My friends who had came back with me thought it was a joke, but it was no joke. Only my sister and myself know that we have a ghost, and a bad one. More time passed with nothing happening. And then, I have a picture frame on my wall with lots of photos of me and my friends. One day I woke up, got dressed, and thought something in my room just looked odd. The frame was missing. Weird thing is, it hangs on the same part of my wall where I first saw the man. I found it behind my little dresser, the glass smashed, so obviously it had fallen. I told my mom when she got home from work and asked if we could get the glass fixed. She seemed shocked that it had fallen. She looked at the hook and said there was no way that it could have just dropped. Scared, I have to agree. She told me that she was eating breakfast this morning and heard the toilet flush. Thinking that it was one of us girls, she didn't do too much. When it flushed again, she got up to see which one of us were awake. Neither of us. We were both sound asleep. I slept in, and so did my sister. When I got up, I looked at the clock, and it was 2:22 p.m. That was a big sleep-in. When I walked to the toilet, the time on the microwave, as I passed through the kitchen, said 4:16 p.m. The oven said 5:12 p.m. When I went into the lounge, the clock on the wall said 12:08. I was so confused. Then a friend called, and he told me the time. The time in the lounge was the correct one. We're a little confused about what happened that day, but we know that the man had to have been involved.